All right, thank you for joining us on our bi-weekly webinar series. Today um, we're going to talk about CRM features and order time, how we can use order time to really manage our customers, contacts, addresses, as well as workflow. And we're going to be talking about kind of what tools are available in the system, and some of you may already know some of this, but it's good to reinforce it and how we can use it. So we're going to talk a little bit about roles, doc status, activities, user groups, alerts, email templates, leads, and quotes. Okay. Um, so as you know, activities kind of cover four different things. They are either a task, event, an email, or a log. So this is a list of all the activities that, regardless of their type, the base type, you can see the base type over here, that is what we refer, that's an internal thing, and that's something that we control system-wide. Now you can also create your own kind of activity types in the profile list. Okay, so I'm going to just navigate to my admin area, and we're going to look at our profile list. And I've created a number of activity types, quite a few of them. Okay, now right here is the base type. Okay, right here is the base type. So the activity types that you create inherit one of the base types, and here is just the name, and this is the default subject. When you create the activity, that is the default subject. Now typically all the activities have all the activity types, whether it's a task, email, log, or anything, they always have an assignee. It's one of the users. If it's a log, it's the person that created it. If it's an email, it's the person who created it. Events could be assigned to multiple users, and so could a task. Whether the activity is closed, who it's related to, contact, and some custom fields. So let me just go ahead and create a new activity. And in this case, we're going to create a new task. But we can also create other types of activities, for example, on the calendar. We'll go. So let's just, before we do that, let's go to the next slide. So a task is an activity that requires an action. It has a due date. And like I said, you can customize your type. A task you have to manually close. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between an activity or a task and an event, both activities. The difference between a task and an event is that you have to actually manually close it. So if I wanted to create a new activity, I can either create it from the list, from create new, or I can create it as part of a customer record. So let's say I have a customer over here, and I want to remind myself to contact the customer. I can just go ahead and add the activity, and here are my activity types, and I'll just say, call to remind order. And you can embellish that with different statuses. Similar to the activity types, you can also customize the activity statuses. So again, those would be found in the profile list, and you just have to tell it whether it's active, and the activity status is we should close the activity. Okay, so not required is a closed status. Open obviously is an open status. Close is a closed status. Pending is also an open status. Okay, so I can, if I wanted to, I can change it to pending. And here's where I would put when I have to do that task, what time I would need to do that task. And here I can set myself a reminder that would set a pop-up to happen 15 or whatever number of time span before the due date. Okay. All right. Now, because this is, so I'll just kind of go like that, and I'll create. Now, the advantage of that is that this activity is automatically related to this customer. Right? Automatically related to the customer. Now, if I wanted to close the activity, I would reopen it, and I would change it to one of my closed statuses. And then that information would go into the activity history for that particular customer. Okay. And similarly, if I have a quote, I can also do an activity related to quote. There is the pop-up that you would see, and we might as well talk about that a little bit, about reminders, that you can set a reminder, and it will happen, whatever time span you select before the reminder. And then when the pop-up comes in, you can dismiss the reminder. So basically, you will no longer get a reminder for that activity, or instead you can snooze, and so now in this case I want to push the reminder out 2 hours. I just snooze that, and it goes away. Okay. So that something that you want to keep in mind. Now, one other point here in terms of default settings, let's go to our company preferences here, and we'll see with regard to activities that you can set a default that you don't necessarily have to by default create alarms, but if you want to create alarms, then you can set a default alarm time span. Default alarm time span. When you have open activities, those open activities on your home screen appear on your open tasks. So whatever assignee is logged in, so assignee is a user, you'll see the activities, and so you can use this little tool here to see which activities are today, which ones are overdue today, which ones are coming tomorrow, etc., etc. Okay. And I can also access the activity right from this list, and then let's say close it off. And it comes back to here. Now, the other type of activity that we have is an event. An event has a start and an end date. Okay, so the start date is kind of your due date, and it will automate. You don't have to manually close it. It will close automatically when the time transpires. So, for example, this one going from 1:30, and it's also date sensitive to where you are. Okay. In the world. So this activity, as you can see, is already closed because the time has transpired. Now, going back to the home screen, I can also create an activity or an event related to a specific document, like I did over here. And that's a cool way to, if you want to kind of remind yourself or schedules one other user's time, let's say to act upon the sales order, you would create an activity for them. And you would create, you would create an event for them, and they would see that on their calendar. Okay. Now I can use the calendar over here. If it's today, I can also scroll through the days. I can look at it on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, or on a daily basis. So let's go back to, then if I want to just go back to today. Now, the last icon is to view the schedule, and here you would see everybody's schedule. So all your users you would be able to see at one time. Okay? All your users you'd be able to see at one time. So that's what that is all about. And then you can kind of filter, just show me work orders or sales orders. So that's the only one there that I have for sales orders. Another type of activity we spoke about are emails and logs. And a log, we provide a lot of areas, whether it's a customer or a document to put information. So in this customer, for example, we can add a note, and this note is what a lot of people use this note because it's the note is shared with QuickBooks, and if you want your notes to go back and forth between order time and QuickBooks, you would put in a note here. You can timestamp it and then put in a note. Might be out of credit. Okay, and I can save that. Now, someone may inadvertently come and delete this, so it's pretty easy to do that. Another option is to go to the activity history and add a log. And this is kind of a log is just something that happened today that you want to document. Spoke to customer today, and then you can describe when you spoke to them and what you spoke about. Okay, so subject, you spoke about pricing for item 111. And then also the activities, each activity can have custom fields, right? So custom fields, you can definitely create those custom fields in the admin section and for activities, and you would be able to have that as well. Okay. So that's a log, and then we have that, of course, as part of the record for this company that some other user can easily see. Oh yeah, did we speak about that to him yet? There's the log. We did it. Okay, so that's what you want to do that about. We'll also talk a little bit about the templates, the email templates that you can use in terms of another type of thing that you can do on the customer, or another type of activity is just simply an email. So I can email the customer directly from here, and again, that is why you would have your communication with the customer, and I can use a generic email. These are the templates that we use over here. I can attach either something that is related to the customer attachment, or a file from my computer. And a customer can have multiple contacts. You would see them here, but there's also these three little things over here that you can actually click on, and you can actually add your own internal users. All right, so I can add it for like as a CC, like so. All right, and I can add it for if we had a contact for this customer, you'd see them all here. And the record means basically, I'll just show you that real quick. The record basically is the actual customer itself. So if for whatever reason this had an email address, any one of the billing address or the primary address, the primary shipping address would have, then you can see that's automatic. And then if I go to record, I can see that's the billing email. And then I can maybe add that to the BCC or something like that. So again, here's my template. Now, we'll talk a little bit about templates. There's a lot to know about templates. And I can create, a lot of different templates for different purposes. I'll just go ahead and send that. And you can see that now this email was captured as part of this company record right now. Right. So again, I'm going to go to the admin section, and I'm going to just briefly show the email templates. So here is our generic template. If I try to edit this template, the only thing I'm going to be able to edit is the name and the description of it, maybe the subject. But I'm not going to be able to edit that. What I want to do is I want to clone a template. So first I'm going to clone that template, and let's say we call this customer marketing, something like that. And I'll just put a description to be sent to customer for new deals, whatever. Okay. So here is the subject, and then I would pick a record type. So I want to take information from the customer. I want to take that from the record, and the property, I can take any one of the properties. I'll just take the full name. As you can see, as I pick a record type and a property, it creates this token, and I can just drag this token, and I can put the token, for example, over here as well in the subject. We'll see with quotes, you can do the same thing. I can also, if the customer had or the activity or the email that I created, I actually selected a contact, I can also pull information from the contact. But always I can pull information from my user. All right, so that would be my user first name and the company, which would be, let's say, the company name. So I can just drag that. Oops. Just drag that like so. Okay. All right, so that's a template. And I'll go back to our customer here, and we're going to go ahead and send that email. This time I'll pick the customer marketing email, and we'll see that it populates with some information that I put in there. Okay. All right. So that would be that. We spoke about alarms, emails. Let's talk a little bit more about leads and what leads are used for. So leads are basically customers that won't be synchronized to QuickBooks until you convert them, or they're automatically converted when a quote is converted to a sales order. Okay. You can see here one way to categorize one of the properties that customers do not have that leads have are another profile list called lead status. So I'm going to go over here to our lead status, our profile list again. Under sales, I'll see lead status, and So you can create whatever lead statuses that you want, and then you can use that to filter and reports and seeing, who should I contact next type of thing in terms of your lead statuses. So that can be anything that you want, open, in progress, one, cold, whatever you want with regard to that. Another way to keep track of both your customers and your leads is customer type. That's another profile list. All right, so it's very helpful to be able to categorize your customers. We're going to see that in the future, the customer type is going to have not only the price level, but the terms and some other information, maybe a category. And by changing, let's say I have certain customers in the OEM and I want to across the board change their price level, I would do it in here. And plus, if I assign, when I create my customer and I assign them a price level, or sorry, a type, they automatically inherit the price level. So using customer types is a really convenient feature to use. Okay. So the customer types is definitely all right. So in terms of the differerences between customers and leads, a lead cannot be added to a sales order, but they all kind of share the custom fields. They share the customer type, the lead statuses, the term. Setting up your terms, your payment terms is very important. A class, which is like a department or classification, a division, and ship methods. All those can be found in your profile list. And specific attention would go to the terms, your payment terms for your customers. All right, so you would basically have your leads, and I mentioned about roles, and one of the ways to restrict some of the access levels that your users can even to have to almost any part of the program is to define roles. All right, so we'll see later on when we go through a workflow example using roles. And a role again is, we have these default roles here, admin, GM, and sales. They can't be deleted, and the only thing that you can edit is the name. However, if you can clone one, all right, so I clone it, and then I have a fresh copy that I can rename something else. And it basically, you can define very clearly which area of the program your user can access. Okay, so once you create a user and you assign them a role, and the role basically defines their access level to the various modules of the program. So, for example, the sales rep role, they're not going to create any reports. They're not creating items. They can view an item except for I added an exception. Okay, I clicked here and I added an exception, and I may not want them to view, whatever pack size, or only view that and not edit or create it. Right? So that's adding an exception. Okay. For the item, for the item itself, I don't want the sales rep role to see the standard costs. And similarly, we're going to go this sales rep role. I added an exception for is approved for terms and sales rep, because this is my sales rep role. I don't want them to approve an order. In this case, we'll show you that later. I don't want them changing the customer terms, and I certainly do not want them willy-nilly going into and changing a sales rep to themselves or something else. All right, so I can save that, and that would be that. That reminds me that if you, one other terms of restriction of a user, you can use, each user can be filtered by the sales rep ID. So if I only want, Guillermo Fernandez to see, he's associated with Accutech as a sales rep, then I would highlight that, and I can highlight more than one. So a sales manager might have access to 2 sales reps, etc. And that way they would only see their own customers and their own sales orders and ship docs and quotes. Each customer and lead can have multiple shipping addresses. Okay. So we'll go back to this customer here. And by default, there's always one shipping address. That's the primary shipping address. So I never actually entered this. Whatever I enter here in the shipping would automatically go to the default shipping address. And this is if, for example, I've seen a lot of customers create hierarchies using jobs strictly for the purpose of changing the shipping address. You don't have to do that in order time. You just create another shipping address. Let's say you have, a big retailer has multiple DCs or retail outlets. You would add those as a shipping address. Now, if for whatever reason, and the only reason you would use jobs or anything like that, or create multiple customers, even though they're the same, is that if they have a different billing address, because QuickBooks only provides one billing address, so you can't change it. Or you can change it on a kind of on an order by order basis, but they only have one billing address that you can put in. All right, so now one other thing about the address is that an address can be each address can have different sales tax ramifications. All right, so each address, so the primary address has one, and each address can also have a primary or a different tax item, a different tax treatment. In addition, the address can be coded with a default location. So if I pick, let's say if I'm doing a quote or sales order, and I pick that customer address, it'll associate it, will automatically say the ship from would be that location. Okay. All right, so similar to the addresses, each contact could have a different contact. So let's say, that's already been used. Take that away. So they can have a different contact, and let's just put here that one. The phone number, et cetera, et cetera. Right, so I can create multiples of those, and I have a primary position. There's notes and custom fields as well I can add per contact. Now, similar, if your contact is only at, let's say, the DC location or a specific store location that not an HQ, you can say this contact is only in one of the addresses for this customer. Okay, so that's contacts. And by the way, you can also manage your contacts from the full list of contacts, and we recently added that not only that a vendor can also have a contact. So you can also, vendors have quite a, vendor management can also be done in a very similar ways that we're talking about customer management, because you have a vendor type and you have contacts and you have different billing addresses and stuff like that. So a lot of those things would be also in effect. Okay. So we talked a little bit, in terms of the statuses, tracking the quote revisions. We're going to talk about that. Now, before we talk about that, we're going to talk a little bit about the doc statuses. And the doc statuses, you may or may not know, in our system, in order time, every document, quote, sales order, purchase order, receiver, work order, adjustment, transfer, every one of them has a status. Every one of them. And you can see, so you can customize these status names over here, but the types is really what we look at. All right. So in terms of a quote, the quote has another status. I'll just call this another. And the quote has processing, presented, or close lost. Right. Close won is actually something that happens when you convert it to a sales order. That happens automatically. So we'll say that that's a presented here, and I can also move these along as well, up and down. Okay. Oh, I can only move it. I can't move it. So as you can see, they're ordered by these types. Right? These types, the order of which they appear is very important. I can't put presented in the processing. I have to put it either just above or below a common type. Okay. So back to our test customer. We'll go ahead and create a lead real quick. So we'll call this lead I don't know why I picked that name. I think that's like some Star Wars thing, Gul Dukat. Anyways, really everything. The only thing I really need is a name, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Add that lead. I can add the addresses, contacts, some attachments. There's a custom fields and the activity histories. So I'm just going to go ahead here and create a new quote. All right, so all the information that we have here, your sales reps, your terms, they can all be pre-populated on the lead, and they would automatically come on the quote. I go ahead and save that, and we add our items. All right. So here's kind of the price levels. If I wanted to offer them a price level, discount, let's add another item. All right, quantity, press return. So then I can go, there's my another, and I can go to the quote list and see, the statuses. So I can, if I want to see just one status, I would go to my my filters over here, and I would just filter by that status, and I can clearly see that. And I can also use that obviously on reports as well. I want to send the customer something that he can maybe sign or review and approve. So I'm going to use my template here. All right, so there's just my basic quote template with the, I'm going to go save an email, and I'm going to add, I'm just going to send it to myself for now here. And you can see here that the quote is automatically attached. The quote is the attachment is automatically created, and the name of it is the name of the template, in this case just quote, the quote number, and the revision number. The minute I create this PDF are revision increments. So that way, if I continuously create new new versions of the quote, I can always go and I can create a new PDF, send it again to them, and it'll be another version number, and now we're on version number 3. And you can add that to your template. That's just a read-only property that we control every time you generate and save a PDF. Okay. Good. So now, moving right along, we spoke about the conversion. We created the quote, the lead, customized the quote statuses. We can see how we can track the revisions. And now all we need to do is we need to change it to one of our presented, or I have another thing called ready to order, and I'll see this a button here that appears. Okay. So again, I can control that. All right. So that is presented. Once it's presented, I click convert. It's going to give me a message. And at this time, this has already become a customer, and it'll go into QuickBooks as a customer. Okay. So with all the things that we've learned today, we're going to go through an example of how to use roles, the doc statuses, and alerts. And this is something that I'm going to show you right now to control, to restrict who can approve an order, and when an order needs approval, how do we communicate that without picking up the phone or sending out an email? Okay. So we're going to do that right now. So we already spoke about roles, and you saw that in one of my roles, that user, that sales rep, could not approve an order. Is approved is an exception. In terms of the doc statuses, I have a role, I have already something that says needs approval. Okay. That's one of the custom that I created. I'm just going to merge. So I can actually merge, I can delete it and merge it with another role. Let's see that. We're going to go ahead now, and we're going to talk about an alert. So an alert is an automated task creator. An automated task creator based on events that happen in the system. So I'm going to go, I've already created the alert, and I'm just going to show it to you. So this is the name of the alert. Okay, I can describe it here. I want to make sure that it's active, because if it's not active, it will not trigger anything. And I want to focus the alerts on my sales orders. So these are everything that I can create an alert for. So someone creates a new item or a new customer, you can do that. And for my sales order, I want the alert to run after I change status to needs approval. And I want to create a task, one of my activity, which is the base type task. I want to create a task to a user. I can create a group of sales orders or users. That's also, so if I want a whole bunch of people to get this alert, in profile list, there's another concept called user group. It's just easy to kind of aggregate, let's say, all the, I want 3 people to know about this: billing, credit support, things like that. But in this case, I'm just going to do a user. I'm going to select the user, and in here, this is how many days I want to add to the due date for that particular task that's going to be created. So if a user cannot change, does not have rights to approve an order, this will be grayed out. They will not be able to do that. They will be able to change it to a processing. Okay. They will be able to change it to a processing, and did I save that alert? Okay. Probably send it to me. So, anyways, all right. So that alert is going to happen. Okay, so there it is. I think I turned off the pop-ups. I think I did turn off the pop-ups. So I should have had the pop-ups on. I was expecting to see a pop-up. But here's the alert. I could filter. So if I'm the approver, there it is actually. If I'm the approver, I can filter my sales order list by a certain status again. And then I can actually, from the list, I can change the status, send an email, and create PDF. So I'll change the status to approved. And then if this gets approved, there might be another alert for the shipping department to go ahead and ship that order. Okay. Just a couple more things about and I'm going to open it up for questions. The doc statuses, I just wanted to point out on both the ship doc and the sales orders. There's 2 alerts, 2 types that are system defined, and those are on credit hold and payment pending. An on credit hold happens when you put a customer on credit hold. In order to do that, I go ahead and edit the customer, go over to payment and check this little box. I'll get a warning. I go yes, and then I save the customer. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and try to create a sales order, I'll see it'll let me create the sales order, but I'll see it right here. And it will create it. I'll add the item, and it will not let me, if I try to change it to approved, it will not let me. Okay, so if an order is not approved, by default, we have the watermark on it. So that's good. That's good for your control. The other document status is for payment pending, and that relates to your terms. We're going to go to profile list and the terms, and here I have a payment on order term that requires full payment on order. Okay. So that's also so I'm going to just relieve that. So I'll just create another. I'll just edit that for a second here. We'll take them off of the hold, and we'll make them their terms payment on order. So now you know how important it is to restrict the terms, because you can for that reason. So we'll go ahead and create another sales order here. And now if I want to change this to approved, it won't let me. It will not let me because I have to have a full payment on order. So now it'll let me. All right. Well, that's the presentation, and I'm open for questions.
There was one in the chat already. For different shipping addresses, how do we default the ship method if they're different? How do we set a default shipping?
How do we set a default ship method? That's a good question. There is no ship method per address, I don't believe, but it's something that we could probably have a request for, Michael.
Okay. But normally it does default to the primary address, like because you can set one as a primary.
It defaults to the customer, whatever is in the customer itself.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
Not necessarily for that ship.
Mm-hmm.
On another webinar, I'll show you our estimator, which is it kind of makes it irrelevant. That's what's the default ship method, but you can change a ship method on an order by order basis. So you can go to an order or a quote and simply click, make sure that it's click the ship method, and this is actually the estimator.
Nice. Yeah. And does anyone else have any other questions about what you've seen today? I can send out the slides after, directly after this in the email with my notes. And in my notes, I've got some helpful links for setting up system alerts, document statuses, customer addresses, adding leads, everything like that. So rest assured that everything you saw in this has been recorded. You can see a video of this afterwards, and also the notes will be very helpful. Our next question is there a way to close multiple tasks at once?
We're going to do that on the next update from
Ian, I think you might have muted yourself.
We're going to do that on the next update on the activities list. We're going to have a batch action here.
Oh, you're going to add batch action to
the activities list.
Very good. So that's coming. And then are we able to split ship one order to multiple addresses?
Are you able to ship one order to multiple addresses? You would have to change the ship to address on the ship doc, I believe.
And they can add multiple ship to addresses on there, or
no? They would. The answer right now is no. It's not something that's. We had it in the older program. It's roughed in, but it's not something that we're currently supporting.
Okay.
But you could, for example, create one ship doc for partial, and then create another ship doc for another one.
Oh, okay. As a workaround.
Yes, as a workaround. Mm-hmm.
And then the next question is, can we get basically batch actions on the credits? How about credit batch actions?
Credit batch actions? What do you mean by customer returns? Is that what he's talking about? Andrew, is that what you're talking about? Customer returns? You mean this?
Yes. Add batch action to that to maybe change status.
Yeah, go ahead and add that too. I don't know why it's not here. It should be here. There's no reason why it should be here.
Status or print. Yeah, that's correct. Like to do the PDF and whatnot. Okay, I will add that as a Jira ticket.
That should be pretty easy. I'm surprised that we didn't do that. Anyways,
We got to do another pass on the batch actions.
yeah. I mean, it's on
All
it's
right.
on customers. It's on sales orders.
Any other questions before we end off, guys? Yeah. Do we have batch actions inside of customers?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, it's only send email.
I'll only send email.
There's nothing else to really do with, what other batch actions are there for customers? I'm trying to think. And put them on hold or take them off of hold, maybe.
He's saying go into a customer and on the tabs from the customer screen.
Oh, inside the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Generally don't do that. We only have it on this. We generally don't do that. So I don't know. We can maybe see if we can do that. I would have to see. I would have to see if we can do that.
That's something we'll look into, Andrew. Thanks for the suggestions, though. I think that's it. I think we finished it.